Welcome to A Narrated Discovery, the channel where we wander slowly, listen deeply, and explore the world's hidden beauty, one country at a time. Today, our journey takes us to Montenegro, a small yet breathtakingly diverse country on the Balkan Peninsula in southeastern Europe. Sandwiched between Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Kosovo, and Albania, and opening westward to the Adriatic Sea, Montenegro is a land where high mountains tumble into emerald rivers and pine forests meet pebbled beaches. Despite its modest size, Montenegro is home to about 620,000 people. The majority identify as Orthodox Christians, with a significant Muslim minority, and smaller communities of Catholics and others. Here, religion and tradition weave gently into daily life, creating a rich and layered cultural tapestry. Settle in, find a comfortable spot, and let us drift slowly together through ancient towns, quiet mountains, and sun-drenched shores as we seek the quiet heart of Montenegro. Imagine yourself standing on the edge of a fjord, though the locals call it a bay, in the half-light before dawn. This is the Bay of Kotor, where steep, stony peaks rise sharply from the calm, mirror-like water. The air is fresh, faintly salty, carrying whispers of pine and the promise of another warm day. Mist drifts low across the hills, softening the outlines of old stone villages tucked along the shore. You walk along a narrow quay, footsteps muffled by age-old stones, smoothed by centuries of tide and time. Fishing boats bob gently in the dark water, their hulls painted bright blue and green, their names in looping Cyrillic. Somewhere, a church bell rings, calling the first light into being. A fisherman nods to you, sharing a brief, knowing smile, the kind of greeting that speaks of belonging. The town is slow to wake. Cats thread their way through alleyways, disappearing beneath wooden shutters and the trailing vines of bougainvillea. The walls glow golden, touched by the rising sun. Here in Kotor, the past lingers. Venetian lions watch from carved facades. Narrow stone steps climb between houses and laundry flutters on lines strung between windows high above. You pause beneath an archway, listening as the silence is broken only by the soft clatter of morning cups in a nearby cafe. You are invited in, welcomed with a strong black coffee, thick and sweet, served in a tiny cup beside a glass of cool water. The owner greets you in a low, melodic voice, offering a plate of preganais, golden donuts drizzled with honey. You taste the Adriatic in the air, the mountain in the bread, the warmth of old hospitality. The first ferry crosses the bay, its engine humming quietly. Locals gather at the quay, trading news, waiting for the day to begin in earnest. You watch as the mist lifts, revealing terracotta roofs and church spires, olive trees shimmering silver in the breeze. As the morning brightens, you wander through Kotor's labyrinth of medieval lanes. Ancient stone towers lean over cobbled squares, their walls covered in moss and memory. You watch as the market opens, stalls blooming with figs, pomegranates, baskets of wild herbs, bright peppers, and shining jars of mountain honey. An old woman offers you a slice of her homemade cheese, sharp and tangy, a taste of the highland pastures above. Local men play chess in the shade, the clack of pieces echoing between the stones. Children dart through the crowd, their laughter rising like birdsong. Above, swifts wheel and dive, their shadows flickering across weathered walls. The city breathes slowly, every corner holding another story, of sailors and saints, of siege and celebration, of everyday kindnesses that stitch the centuries together. You step out through the ancient city gates, following a path that climbs the hillside. Stone steps rise sharply toward the old fortress, zigzagging through wild rosemary and thyme. You pause for breath, turning to look down over the red roofs, the winding lanes, the sweep of the bay. Far below, the bells ring for morning mass, the sound rising with the light. The climb is slow, steady. At the top, the fortress stands silent, its stones warm beneath your hand. You sit in the hush, feeling the breeze stir through the ruins. A shepherd passes below, calling to his flock, his voice echoing across the valley. Clouds gather and drift, their shadows trailing over the mountains. You descend the path, feet finding the rhythm of stone and grass, the old and the new. You follow a quiet road out of town, passing orchards heavy with apples and pears, olive groves silver and soft in the sun. The land opens before you, first fields and gardens, then the wild green sweep of forest and hill. A small church stands at a crossroads, its white walls bright against the blue sky. You pause beneath a linden tree, listening to the bees, the distant hum of a tractor, the quiet pulse of the land. A farmer waves, offering a basket of plums. You taste the sweetness, the sunlight, the slow abundance of autumn. Leaving the bay behind, you travel inland. The road winds through canyons carved by ancient rivers, sheer cliffs rising on either side. Hawks circle above, riding the thermals. You stop at a wayside spring, filling your bottle with clear, cold water. The air is scented with wild mint and pine. You sit for a moment, letting the sound of water and wind seep into your bones. Soon you come to Cetinje, the old royal capital, nestled in a wide green valley beneath the mountains. The streets are broad and quiet, lined with chestnut trees and grand old buildings. Museums, monasteries, embassies, now faded to new purpose. You walk slowly through the town, pausing to admire the blue domes of the monastery, the cool marble of the old palace. Flags flutter gently above tiled roofs. History breathes here, gentle and dignified. A group of schoolchildren sings a folk song in the square, their voices carrying in the clear air. Elders sit on benches, sharing memories of war and peace, of long winters and bright summers, of kings and poets, and the quiet strength of their homeland. You are invited to join them, handed a glass of homemade rakia, sharp and fiery, distilled from plums and sun. In a quiet corner, a small bakery draws you in with the scent of fresh bread. You buy a warm loaf, breaking it open to find the crust thick and chewy, the crumbs soft and fragrant. An old woman sits beside you, teaching you the names for sun and rain in Montenegrin. She tells you stories of her childhood in the mountains, of snow so deep you could not find the path, of summers spent in the hayfields, singing and working side by side. You follow her story northward, into the wild sweep of the Durmitor mountains. The road climbs steadily, curving through forests of fir and spruce, past rivers that cut through deep gorges. The peaks rise high and wild, their slopes dotted with small villages and scattered sheep. You pause at a meadow, wide and green beneath the mountain sky. A shepherd boy sits with his flock, carving a whistle from willow wood. He teaches you a simple tune, the notes rising above the sound of bells and wind. You eat bread and cheese together, sharing a silent companionship, the hush of the highlands settling deep within you. Days in the mountains pass in slow, generous rhythm. Each morning dawns misty and cool, sunlight trickling through the clouds. You wake to the distant call of a cuckoo, the scent of damp grass and wood smoke. Breakfast is simple, a bowl of kachmak, rich and creamy, spread on dark bread, sweetened with honey from wildflowers. You hike along forest trails, the air sharp with pine and resin. Mushrooms push up through the moss. Deer slip quietly through the trees. You drink from cold springs, pausing to watch dragonflies flicker above the water. A red squirrel watches you from the branches, tail twitching, unafraid. By midday, the sun breaks through, lighting the peaks in gold. You climb higher, following shepherd's paths between rocky outcrops and summer pastures. At the top of a ridge, you sit and gaze out over the Tara River Canyon, the deepest gorge in Europe, its turquoise water slicing through the wild, green earth. Eagles wheel above, the wind carrying the scent of stone and sky. You wander into a village, its wooden houses perched above the valley. Women hang laundry in the sun, children race bicycles down dusty lanes. You are welcomed with smiles, offered a plate of chikvara, a rich, creamy cornmeal dish eaten with cheese and fresh yogurt. The meal is shared beneath a spreading linden, laughter rising as the afternoon drifts on. As evening falls, smoke rises from chimneys, sheep crowd into their pens, and the mountains glow with the last light of day. You sit by a fire, sharing stories in many tongues. Someone brings out a gusle, the ancient single-stringed fiddle, and sings a song of heroes and lost loves, of journeys and homecoming, of sorrow and hope. The music drifts into the night, lingering long after the stars appear. The next morning, you travel eastward, where the mountains soften into rolling hills and the land opens toward the plains. The Moraka River twists through deep canyons, its banks bright with wildflowers. Villages nestle in the folds of the land, their churches old and patient, their graveyards filled with stone crosses and wild thyme. You visit a monastery perched on a rocky bluff, its frescoes glowing in the candlelight, the scent of beeswax and incense filling the cool air. A monk welcomes you, sharing a story of the saint who founded this place centuries ago. You walk through the quiet garden, the hum of bees and the sound of distant bells threading the stillness. In the lowlands, orchards bloom with cherries and apricots, fields shimmer with sunflowers, and rivers glint in the afternoon sun. You visit a farm, helping to gather fruit, laughing as juice runs down your chin. Lunch is served beneath a walnut tree. Grilled peppers, fresh tomatoes, lamb slow-cooked with rosemary. Bread warm from the oven. The flavors are bright, the conversation easy. You continue on to Lake Skadar, its waters broad and blue, ringed by reed beds and hills. Fishermen set out at dawn in narrow wooden boats, casting nets for carp and eel. You join them on the water, the silence broken only by the call of herons and the soft splash of oars. Water lilies bloom in floating meadows, and the air is sweet with the scent of summer. Villages cling to the lake's edge, their houses built of stone and tile, their gardens lush with figs and vines. Women tend beehives, old men mend nets, and everywhere there is the slow, steady rhythm of the water. You visit a small chapel on an island, its walls cool and thick, candles flickering in the half-light. You sit in silence, listening to the lake, to the prayers that have echoed here for centuries. On a festival day, the whole village gathers in the square. Tables are laid with roasted lamb, baked fish, bowls of olives and cheese, platters of fruit, honey cakes, and sweet plum brandy. Music spills from every window, fiddles and accordions and the quick, bright beat of drums. Dancers form a circle, their steps light and sure, hands joined, faces flushed with joy. The sun shines on laughter, on the bright patterns of traditional dress, on the pride of a people who know how to celebrate together. As the day slips toward evening, you walk down a winding path toward the coast, the air warm, scented with rosemary and salt. The land flattens into olive groves and vineyards, the hills falling away toward the blue sweep of the Adriatic. You arrive in Budva, its old town encircled by Venetian walls, its narrow lanes bright with flowers and sunlight. The sea sparkles, gentle and wide, its surface broken by the white sails of fishing boats. You swim in the cool, clear water, then dry yourself on smooth pebbles, the sun warm on your skin. Beach cafes fill with voices: Montenegrin, Albanian, Italian, Russian. The languages mingling in a gentle music. Children chase gulls on the sand, and old men play cards in the shade of tamarisk trees. You stroll along the promenade, passing stalls of figs and almonds, rows of sun-bleached fishing nets, women selling shells and hand-woven baskets. The air is easy, filled with possibility and rest. As dusk falls, you sit at a terrace above the water, sipping a glass of Ranach wine, watching the sky turn gold, then rose, then deep indigo blue. A fisherman joins you, sharing stories of storms and calm, of lucky catches and old regrets. You listen, grateful for the hush, the laughter, the shared memory. The stars come out, one by one, reflected in the gentle tide. In the days that follow, you explore the winding coast, hidden coves and broad beaches, ancient towns perched on headlands, monasteries looking out to sea. You walk through Ulchinj, where minarets rise beside church towers, and markets spill down the hills in a bright tangle of fruit and flowers. The scent of coffee and cardamom fills the air, and the voices of many peoples mingle in the sunlight. You cross the river to Ada Boyana, where the delta meets the sea. The land is wild here, shaped by wind and tide. Horses graze among dunes. Fishermen haul in nets strung between sandbars, and the evenings glow with campfires and laughter. You wade into the warm water, the sand shifting beneath your feet, the sky wide and full of birds. Farther north, you visit Herceg Novi, a town of stairs and gardens, where jasmine climbs stone walls and fountains sing in quiet courtyards. You climb the old citadel, feeling the breeze from the sea, the sense of ancient watchfulness, of stories passed down through generations. One afternoon, you take a mountain road inland, climbing high above the coast. The world opens wide, blue sea below, green mountains above, the sky bright with hawks. You stop at a roadside inn, welcomed with bread and salt, a sign of friendship as old as the hills. Dinner is a feast of smoked ham, pickled cabbage, wild mushrooms, and sweet pastries filled with walnuts and honey. Night falls slowly in the mountains. You sit by a fire, wrapped in a woolen blanket, listening to the wind in the pines. Someone recites an old epic poem, the words rising and falling like the land itself. A story of love and battle, of exile and return, of the patient, enduring heart of Montenegro. On your last days, you find yourself returning to old paths, old friendships, old views. You rise before dawn to watch the sun spill into the Bay of Kotor, to breathe the salt and the promise of a new day. You walk through olive groves heavy with fruit, past walls built by hand, feeling the deep memory of the land beneath your feet. You join a family for Sunday lunch, the table crowded with food and laughter, wine poured freely, stories passed back and forth with easy affection. You help pick grapes for the harvest, your hands sticky and sweet. Children show you how to whistle with acorn caps, how to skip stones on the lake, how to listen for the first cuckoo of spring. You hike through the Levchain National Park, the slopes ablaze with wildflowers. At the summit, the mausoleum of Ngegos stands watch, poet, bishop, and prince, whose words still shape the spirit of the nation. You look out over the land, the mountains falling away to the sea, clouds racing across the sky. You sit in the hush, feeling the weight of time, the lightness of belonging. On your last evening, you gather with friends beside the water. Lanterns glow in the dark, music drifts over the bay, and the world feels full, complete. You walk the quay beneath the stars, grateful, at peace, carrying with you the taste of plum brandy, the sound of bells, the deep, slow beauty of Montenegro. As our narrated discovery of Montenegro comes to a close, we hope this journey has brought you a sense of wonder and calm. If you enjoyed exploring with us, please consider subscribing for more poetic journeys to the world's hidden places. Leave a comment if you have thoughts, suggestions, or a country you'd love us to visit next. And if this brought you a moment of stillness, a like would mean the world. Thank you for exploring gently with us. Until next time.